May 18th, one of the biggest fights in boxing history takes place as Tyson Fury squares off with Oleksandr Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight title of the world. It's going down in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and today we talk about the road to undisputed for Tyson Fury. Now, Tyson Fury was born on August 12th, 1988 in Manchester to Irish traveller parents Amber and John. Now, Tyson's parents would have 14 pregnancies, but only 4 were carried to term. And sadly, Tyson's sister would die just days after being born when Tyson was only 9 years old. And Tyson himself was born premature, weighing only 1 pound when he was born. And the doctors even told his parents it's unlikely he would survive. But despite the odds, Tyson did survive, and his dad would name him after the heavyweight champion of the time, Mike Tyson. Now, ironically, since then, Big John's actually called out Mike Tyson for a fight, but only if the price is right. And he has a nice old photo of Big John with little Tyson Fury on his knee back in the day. Now, Tyson's parents are apparently very different people. His mother doesn't want to be in the limelight at all, and Tyson said of her that she's just happy as long as he's happy and healthy, and she doesn't really care about all of the boxing stuff. Now, Tyson's dad, on the other hand, you could say he enjoys the limelight a little bit.
Can anybody question who I am here? If I say come on.
Tyson's parents would split up not long after he was born, and Big John would go and remarry another woman who was the mother of Tommy Fury, also a fighter. And fighting is deeply ingrained in the Fury roots. And John Fury himself was a boxer in the 80s who went by Gypsy John Fury, had a record of 8 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. And John also did a bit of bare knuckle boxing apparently, and he said this is where he thrived. I actually asked him about this when I interviewed him. Was this sort of coordinated? And he just went, nah, I just went for a night out and seen who was up for it. And toughness and the ability to fight is a huge deal amongst the traveller men. It's a way of bringing honour to your family, but also settling disputes. But unfortunately, Big John Fury was jailed for 11 years after gouging a man's eye out after a 12-year feud over a bottle of beer. John left Othie Sykes, 44, half blind after a 12-year grudge erupted in bloody violence at a car auction. Mr. Sykes told the court he was trying to pull his finger into my brains through my socket. He said, I was screaming, please stop, you're hurting me. I've never read this before. After that, he tried to take my other eye. He tried to blind me. The two men had been pals, but had had a violent bust-up over a bottle of beer during a trip to Cyprus in '99. This is mad. This is mad, this thing.
I'm not going to go looking for nobody, but men meet before mountains.
And in an interview later, Tyson would say that the best thing a man can be in his culture is a fighting man. If you're a fighting man, you may as well be a multimillionaire. And Tyson's brothers, cousins, uncles were all bare knuckle boxers. And apparently, Bartley Gorman, who was the bare knuckle champion of Great Britain and Ireland, also known as the King of the Gypsies, was even a part of the bloodline of the Furies. Now, when Tyson was a kid, his teacher said that when he was 6 years old, he looked more like an 11-year-old. He had a hulking physique even at that age. She said he was a quiet boy, but he loved playtimes. He was so big, the other boys would taunt him and try and get him to react, but we taught him to walk away. He could not risk hurting anyone because he was so strong even then. So Tyson had started boxing at just 10 years old and had left school at 11 to follow his father and his brothers into the road tarmacking business. He also worked in his dad's car lot, cleaning the cars. And when his dad was teaching him how to box as a kid, he quickly learned that Tyson had a natural ability. And at 14 years old, Tyson was 6 foot with long arms and just had this natural ability to box. And when Tyson was 17, he met a young lady called Paris who was also from Gypsy roots, and they hit it off immediately. 3 years later, they were married and have since had 7 kids and recently announced another one on the way. And yeah, I think he needs to give her a rest at this point. Jesus, get back to boxing. So at 18 years old, Tyson had won the Youth World Boxing Championships and was already bursting onto the scene. Tyson won gold and silver at the European Junior Championships, and he was ranked number 3 in the world as a junior. And Fury actually wanted to represent England at the 2008 Olympics, but David Price, who'd been a part of the Olympic team, was selected instead. He also tried to represent Ireland for those Olympics, but they wouldn't allow it because he couldn't actually prove his citizenship. But at just 20 years old in 2008, Fury would go on to win the ABA super heavyweight title against Damien Campbell. And as he felt cheated after not being able to compete at those Olympics, he decided that was the moment to retire from amateur boxing and become a pro. His record at the time was 31-4, which was a very good record, but compared to Usyk, he had 10 times less the amateur fights that Usyk had.
I should have went to the Olympic Games really, but only through politics. I've never made it there. But anyone in the Olympic Games, I'd handled no bother. I'd done a better job than our arch rival, Mr. Price. And Anyway, I went into the ABAs and I strolled through them, stopped everyone in it.
And you can hear even at that young age, there was a lot of confidence within Tyson about his ability. And rightly so, because in his first pro fight, he stopped the guy in the first round. So he knew he was good and he was proving he was good immediately. And 7 months after making his pro debut, Tyson had stopped 6 additional fighters within the first 4 rounds. But at 22 years old, less than 1 year after turning pro, Tyson was matched up with John McDermott for the English title. John had had 30 fights and 25 wins under his belt. Now, Fury won that fight in a very controversial points decision. And the referee Terry O'Connor was heavily criticised for awarding the fight to Tyson Fury. It was later found out that John McDermott's dad had actually beaten that referee in a fight before. And that could have been the reason why he awarded the fight to Fury. And Fury settled the debate a year later by defeating McDermott in the rematch. But that first fight, it still left questions in the eyes of the people as to just how good could Tyson Fury be. Fury won his next 2 fights after that, but it was at that point that his dad was sentenced to time in prison, which meant that his uncle Hughie would step up to be his new trainer. And Tyson even signed a deal to fight on Channel 5 just because his dad could watch the fights in jail. I mean, if that isn't father and son love, I don't know what is, really. So Tyson kept on winning, and this set up a big fight against fellow Brit and undefeated heavyweight Derek Chisora. And Derek Chisora was the narrow favourite coming into this fight, but you wouldn't have known it from what took place in the ring. Fury dominated Derek Chisora, using his size, using his reach, and completely outboxed Chisora. This fight really announced Tyson Fury on the big stage in Britain. So now that Fury had gotten the Commonwealth heavyweight title, it was time to defend it, and he would do so against undefeated Canadian Nevin Pajkic. And this would give Fury his first big scare in the ring. And what you saw in this fight was the first look at the legendary recovery powers of Fury. The minute he got back up, he doesn't look phased. The whole world's going crazy at that moment. The commentators are thinking that he's on the ropes, he could be put out here. He looks fine immediately afterwards. And that was something that would really help him throughout his career. Just a round later, Fury went being from on the deck to his hand raised. And that's when people got a glimpse at, okay, he's not just a really big, tall, long-range guy. He's actually got heart. He's actually gritty, gutsy, determined. Not long after that, Tyson would vacate the Commonwealth titles and say he wanted to go after the vacant Irish heavyweight belt because of how much it meant to him, given his roots back in Ireland. Tyson won that one comfortably, and he went on and also won the WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title against the American Vinny Maddalone. Now, Fury would then get dropped again by Steve Cunningham, who was a former cruiserweight, a smaller man who potentially Fury underestimated. And Fury said that this was one of his hardest fights ever because he just couldn't get a hold of this guy. Kept moving around and lighter on his feet than a normal heavyweight was. Maybe that bodes well for Usyk. But Fury again got back up off the canvas after being dropped with a real hard shot. And then he proceeded to roughhouse this guy, got on the inside and destroyed him. It was another example of you just can't count Tyson Fury out the way you can other heavyweight fighters. Now it was time for the Chisora 2 fight. It was around this time that Tyson's uncle Hughie had fell ill and died, sadly, and it was now up to his uncle Peter to train him. And this actually made for a great relationship, and Peter did a great job at coaching him. And Fury was really one to watch in the heavyweight division at this point. They knew he was coming for the top of the mountain. He rematched Derek Chisora, stopped him, did an even better job on him in the second fight. Then he stopped Christian Hammer, and this earned him a shot at the unified heavyweight title of the world held by Vladimir Klitschko. Now, Tyson had had his eye on Klitschko from the day he started boxing practically. Klitschko had been heavyweight champion from the year 2000 when Fury was just 12. So he'd spent all of his career thinking, one day I'll fight Klitschko. And that moment of climbing the top of the mountain had finally arrived. And it felt like Fury had been obsessing over this guy for so long that he knew exactly how to beat him. And part of that plan was about what happened before they got in the ring. And Fury went about making this man feel as uncomfortable as humanly possible. He was behaving erratic. He was acting crazy. He was insulting him. And in years gone by, there was this moment where they'd both been in a sauna, and Fury had made his mind up that he wasn't going to get out that sauna until Klitschko did. This was a weird battle of wills, and Fury had been the one to leave the room last, and he'd made a point of remembering that.
He got out first.
And what did you think at that time?
Fought mental victory.
And because Klitschko had always been this sort of psychological giant, all of these antics on the run-up to the fight had definitely had some form of impact on him. And when they got in the ring, Fury's style of fighting also confused Klitschko. So not only was Klitschko mentally in an uneasy place in going into the fight, but physically, when the fight started, he couldn't touch Tyson the way he could other fighters. And this was highly unusual for a 6'8", 6'9" man to move as light on his feet as Tyson did, to not just stand in front of you and try and knock you out, but to pick you apart, to outpoint you, to frustrate you. It was one of Klitschko's worst ever performances. And that's not just down to Klitschko, it's down to all the good things that Tyson Fury did in winning that fight. Now, the problem was winning a decision in Dusseldorf, which was the closest thing to home turf for Vladimir Klitschko. Everyone thought they're not going to give him the decision, but they did. And despite a lot of people saying it wasn't the most entertaining of performances, he was now the unified heavyweight champion of the world. Tyson had finally reached the top of the mountain that he'd been climbing for over a decade. The problem was when he got to the top of the mountain, it felt like there was nowhere left to go. Apparently, he'd got back to the hotel room with Paris after the fight and said, "Enjoy this while it lasts. It's all downhill from here." Now, as mad as that is, because everyone else would have been thinking that this is the time for celebration, it was a time for Tyson Fury to feel like he was lost without direction. This is the thing I've been working for. This was the goal. This was my purpose in life. I've got it now. Now what's my purpose? And this was the beginning of a huge downfall in Tyson Fury's life. The following year, Tyson and his cousin Huey were charged for having a prohibited substance, being nandrolone, in his system. The sample had actually been taken 18 months previously from like the fight before the Klitschko fight, and had only been revealed later. Tyson and his cousin both denied the charge. However, around the same time, a pig farmer had accused Tyson of trying to bribe him to lie about his role in the positive drug tests. Now, according to him, a member of the Fury camp had offered him 25 grand to say that he'd supplied the camp with meat that had injected substances in it, which caused Fury to fail the test. He did later withdraw all the claims and mysteriously stopped wanting to talk about it. So, who knows? Now, it got worse for Tyson after that, because now he was world champion, the media were looking into him and doing digging, and they had unearthed some quotes that people found offensive, and they went after him for it.
And what about you being stripped of your belt? I mean, that's you must be very unhappy with that. What's your reaction to that?
Jesus loves me. And he loves you too, and he loves you too.
He dealt with it the way he dealt with it. And Tyson was scheduled to rematch Klitschko, but unfortunately pulled out of it with an ankle injury. But the mental spiraling that he mentioned could happen to Paris in that hotel room was very much in full swing. Tyson went on a massive session where he was drinking, taking a lot of drugs, doing a lot of things that he has since regretted, but he was basically on a path of self-destruction, and he was also contemplating suicide. Tyson, when he fought Klitschko, was around 240 pounds, but now as the months and years even were going by, he had gained a lot of weight. He was now 400 pounds. He barely looked recognisable from the man we see in lifting the heavyweight title in Dusseldorf. And you could tell he didn't care about himself anymore. And I think years of the pressure of having to live up to the Fury name and to make his family proud and to win this heavyweight title, now he'd finally done it, he'd cracked. All of the pressure that he'd been under was just bursting out of him. There wasn't a reason to stop. And like a lot of people with depression, mentally, they're very negative towards themselves. They don't speak nicely towards themselves. But it's another thing to let someone else speak negatively about us. And while Tyson's depression was overwhelming him, his ego was still alive and well. And Deontay Wilder was quoted in an interview saying, "He's finished, he's done." And that was one of the things that sparked Tyson Fury back to life to go, "You're not going to talk to me like that. I'm coming back for you." And Tyson had read in George Foreman's autobiography that he'd had a moment of crisis too, where he sort of dropped to his knees, begged God for help, and he'd said that he did help. So Tyson did exactly the same thing, and he swore to himself, "I will get back to being heavyweight champion of the world." And you know what we're like as boxing fans. We love a success story, but more so, we love a comeback story. And that had just begun for Tyson. Now, the craziest thing about Tyson's comeback was he had two really light comeback fights where he didn't look good in either of them. And he was still just trying to lose weight and get back in shape rather than looking like the next heavyweight champion of the world. It was more like a before and after Weight Watchers campaign than it was someone who looked like he was going to knock out Deontay Wilder. But against a lot of people's advice, after two warm-up fights, he made a fight with the hardest hitting heavyweight champion potentially we'd ever seen in Deontay Wilder. Now, by the 12th round of Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, Fury had won almost every round, aside from the one he got dropped in the 9th, but he wasn't dropped badly. He looked fine to continue, and it was the consensus that he was winning this quite comfortably, especially considering what a dangerous puncher Wilder was. But in the 12th round, Wilder puts the big man down with a shot heard around the world. Never in my life have I seen a fighter that flat out on his back and still recover. And after Tyson had been looked upon as a negative figure in boxing because of some of his previous comments, and his attitude had rubbed people up the wrong way at times, even when he won the Klitschko fight, because he hadn't done it in a certain style, he never really got his flowers. He drew this fight, and a lot of people felt like he'd been robbed, and a lot of people were really respectful and had so much admiration for the fact of not only has he come back from depression and the weight gain and everything else, you've just been hit by the biggest puncher in boxing and got back up from a shot that no one gets up from. He was finally appreciated by the people. He'd become the people's champion. But something else happened after Tyson Fury got back up. He started pushing Deontay Wilder backwards. Something no one ever did because they were so scared of the firepower that he'd had in those fists. And he found Deontay Wilder's biggest weakness. The man can't fight on the back foot. Something Tyson would remember for the rematch. But before the rematch could take place, Tyson fought Tom Schwartz, and that was quite an easy fight. He was leaning against the ropes, making a real joke out of the situation, and got rid of him quite quickly. But he would then fight Otto Wallen, who, despite Tyson being a better boxer than, it was almost a huge banana skin, because Otto Wallen opened up a horrendous cut on the eyebrow of Tyson Fury, and it was bleeding so badly, other officials would have stopped that fight. Tyson luckily was allowed to carry on and managed to get the decision, but that was a razor close moment in his career, which could have seen him get his first loss. And that cut on Fury's eyebrow would become a problem later down the road. Then came the rematch with Deontay Wilder, and despite the concerns raised from the Otto Wallen fight, this was the greatest performance of Tyson Fury's entire boxing career to date. He'd knocked off the cobwebs. Athletically speaking, it was the perfect version of Fury because he was strong enough to fight on the front foot and learn the lessons that he learned from the first fight about Deontay Wilder, but he was quick and light on his feet enough to avoid the bombs coming back. And Tyson battered him. That moment where Tyson drops Wilder was an eye-opener. Who is this guy? We've never seen power like this from Tyson Fury before. But he'd made the switch to the Kronk Gym, who are a known bunch of knockout artists, and it felt like they'd brought out the ferocity in Fury. And for Tyson Fury to reclaim his heavyweight belt after being so mentally low, gaining all of that weight, it was a comeback the likes of which we haven't really seen in boxing before. Partly because no one could hit the self-destruct button quite as bad as Tyson. But now he had the belt back, he was really back on top. And after having a long-running competitive feud with fellow Brit Anthony Joshua, who was now in a real low moment of his career, sort of licking his wounds from having a recent defeat, the world really was quite unanimous in the idea of Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world right now. And instead of capitulating like he'd done previously under the pressure, Tyson, he seemed more self-confident than ever. He loved himself more than he ever had. And it brought out a different side of Fury that the fans hadn't really seen before. And not everyone was a fan, me included. You see, Tyson, now that he had the belt, seemed to change his attitude into who his opponents were going to be. It went from wanting to fight the best and prove he was the best to, I just want to get paid. Now, he had the trilogy fight with Deontay Wilder, which he was widely expected to win, but his preparation was hampered by the illness of one of his children, unfortunately, but he still managed to get the win in that fight. But it was a lot closer than a lot of us thought it was going to be. After the second one was so dominant, we all thought that the third one would be the same, but Wilder dropped Fury twice inside one round, and the whole world was thinking, wow, what are we watching here? But Tyson still had his number, and despite the lack of great fitness in that fight that he'd had previously in the second fight, he was able to walk him down and to beat him down. And we've seen Deontay Wilder knocked unconscious for the first time ever. And it was one of the greatest heavyweight fights I've seen, I've got to be honest. Maybe in between the knockdowns, it wasn't, the best boxing display, but that was dramatic. Now, what wasn't so dramatic was the two fights that came after that, one with Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora. Both guys can hit fairly hard, but both past their prime, slow on their feet, shorter than him, shorter arms than him, really tailor-made for the style and attributes of Tyson Fury, and he made light work of them. But the boxing public were frustrated with Tyson Fury's choice of opponents. We wanted to see the big man tested. And I voiced those frustrations to Tyson in an interview. It didn't go down so well, needless to say.
I won't be doing any more interviews with you little top bearded.
No worries, mate. Thanks very much. And boxing was about to change in a way none of us saw coming, as a man known as His Excellency from Saudi Arabia was about to get involved in the boxing game. And this man happened to want to make all of our dream fights come true, and he was willing to put his hand in his pocket to make sure it happened. But the first fight he would give us with Tyson was seen more as a little bit of a warm-up fight for the undisputed title with Oleksandr Usyk. His Excellency brought in undisputed MMA champion Francis Ngannou, who would be competing against Tyson Fury in an exhibition bout, but it would be his first ever boxing match. And it was seen as a little bit of a joke at the time, but as long as we got the undisputed fight, people were like, yeah, we'll watch. It's a bit of entertainment. I mean, what could go wrong, right? It's his first ever boxing match. He can't exactly drop Tyson Fury, the heavyweight champion of the world. Or so we thought. Francis Ngannou drops the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, in his first ever boxing match. Easily the most shocking moment in my entire life of watching boxing. The fight ends in a decision after 10 rounds where Francis Ngannou wins on one of the judges' scorecards, but the other 2 gave it to Tyson Fury. For a man as proud as Tyson, who talks so often about how great he is and how no one else is on his level, it was a really embarrassing experience, no doubt. And it was a complete and utter shock to the world. Who'd expected Tyson to play with Francis and do whatever he wanted with him? That would cause a delay to the Usyk fight, because there was no way Fury, after being all bruised up like that by Francis Ngannou, could go in there and compete with Usyk in such a short space of time afterwards. And in training for the Usyk fight, Fury would sustain quite a bad reopening of the cut that he got against Otto Wallin, which caused another delay to the Usyk fight. But one thing this would give him was something he seemed to desperately need after the fight against Francis Ngannou, and that was time, because he did not look anywhere near his fittest against Francis Ngannou. And if there's one thing we know Usyk brings, it's fitness. So the question ahead of the Usyk fight is, has that amount of time been enough for Tyson Fury to get back to his best? And on May 18th, we will get our answers. This has been Tyson Fury's Road to Undisputed. Don't forget, if you want to buy the fight, the link for that is in the description below, and you can use our link to watch the fight. I really appreciate every single one of you who do that. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the story, and hit the like button, subscribe to the Pain Game YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.